All right, what's going on, boys? It's Keg from Rum Pure Bets back with another UFC preview. Going to do it a little different this time. Normally, I know I only talk about the main event, but it's a huge pay-per-view card. We got 3 title fights, 5 rock-solid fights. Finally, Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby did the damn thing, and we got a sick card. So I'm going to pull up the odds real quick, and we'll start from the main event and run it down. All right, so Kamaru Usman, Jorge Masvidal for the welterweight championship. Originally, these guys fought for the first time back at UFC 251 in Abu Dhabi. And Masvidal is basically getting this opportunity again for 2 reasons. One, because he saved the UFC on that pay-per-view event last year. That's number one. Because Usman was supposed to fight Gilbert Burns that night. Burns ends up getting the Rona. He's forced to pull out of the fight. So basically on 6 days' notice, Masvidal takes the fight. He drops 20 pounds, and he ends up losing a dominant 5-round decision, right? So they're basically giving Masvidal that opportunity to run it back because he saved their ass. The second reason is Kamaru Usman can't stand Jorge Masvidal. He hates him. And even though Masvidal's 3-3 in his last 6, Usman wants to run it back and beat him up again. So we got that going for us. So I took the shot on Gilbert Burns in Usman's last fight. And to be fair, he did have Kamaru Usman hurt for the first time that we've really seen inside the octagon since he went on this historic run. However, I took the shot in that fight because I knew that if it did go to the ground, Gilbert Burns was a world-class grappler. So you really weren't worried about it going to the ground, right? Unfortunately for Jorge Masvidal, he is nowhere near as well-rounded. So once again, it feels like Usman's fight to lose, like every title fight that he's in. So the only thing that worries me about Kamaru Usman in this fight is he just knocks Gilbert Burns out in that last fight. If he decides that all of a sudden, like he thinks he's this world-class striker now, and like he thinks he's going to knock Jorge Masvidal out, then he's probably going to get knocked out on Saturday night. And I say that because Jorge Masvidal is an elite level striker, whether he's 3-3 in his last 6 fights or not. He is an elite striker. And he's got seriously heavy hands for 170 pounds. But if Usman sticks to what he does well, and the reason why he's on a 17-fight winning streak, and he does what he knows, he's going to win this fight in dominant fashion again, exactly like he won the first one. So right now, the odds on Usman are about minus 420. The comeback on Jorge Masvidal somewhere around plus 3.25. I wouldn't tell anybody to lay that price on Usman because you never know. If Masvidal catches Usman, it's all over but the crying. As far as giving out a play, though, for the show, I lean towards us seeing the exact same outcome that we saw in the first fight. Historically, Masvidal is a really durable fighter, so I don't think we see Kamaru Usman knock him out. And we've never seen Kamaru Usman submit anybody in the UFC. So I suppose it's possible that Kamaru Usman could win by ground and pound stoppage from one of the many takedowns that he's probably going to have in this fight. But I think it's not likely. I think we probably see another 5-round decision again, as long as Usman sticks to what he knows best. So I'll go with the decision prop here as far as giving out a lean in the main event. We'll take Kamaru Usman by decision You can get it somewhere around minus 120. I think right now FanDuel has it at about minus $1.20. Yeah. All right. So we'll go with in the main event, Usman by decision, minus 120. Second title fight for the strawweight championship, Weili Zhang, Rose Namajunas. This is the co-main event. Now, everybody's like, is it Zhang Weili? Is it Weili Zhang? The surname in China comes first, right? So we westernize it over here, and we say her first name first. So it's always going to be Weili Zhang to me, even though they say Zhang Weili. But nevertheless, I have really anticipated this fight probably more than any fight in the UFC since this fight was announced. We know that Weili Zhang was in the fight of the year in 2019 in what was probably the greatest female MMA fight in history against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. It was a 5-round war that Zhang won closely, 3 rounds to 2, I would say. And both women were incredibly impressive that night. Zhang is a very well-rounded fighter. She has power in her hands. She has solid footwork. She's got an underrated grappling game. She's worked on her grappling the last 12 months to improve it while getting ready for this fight, but she was already solid on the ground. She submitted a bunch of women over in China. So now, everybody thought that Zhang would have this belt for a decade once she won the title, much like the title reign that Valentina Shevchenko and Amanda Nunes are in the middle of right now. However, Joanna Jędrzejczyk did something that I didn't think that she would be able to do in that fight of the year, and that was make Weili Zhang look really human, superhuman. Now, Zhang's opponent, my girl, Doug Rose Namajunas, who I love, is better than Joanna Jędrzejczyk everywhere, right? Doesn't matter. Grappling, power, striking, footwork, technique. She's better than Joanna everywhere. So Rose has the greatest footwork in the history of women's MMA, and that's not even a debate. That is fact. She's an elite level striker. She's got heavier hands than Joanna did, and Rose Namajunas is far more technically sound on her feet than Weili Zhang is. So if you watch that fight of the year, you can see how if Joanna had power in that fight, there were multiple times that she could have ended the night early and beat Zhang a couple times. But Joanna just didn't carry the power. Well, Rose Namajunas has the power, okay? She's more technical. She's less hittable because of her footwork. And she's a better grappler than Zhang on her worst day. So I think that Rose should be an underdog in this fight. But the line feels like there is built-in recency bias off not seeing Rose for a while, even though, she got retribution for the loss that she took against Andrade after she got dropped on her head. She came back and she beat Andrade, right? But I think that there's recency bias built into the line because of what we've seen Weili Zhang do the last 24 months. So, in my opinion, I think that this fight should be lined more like minus 140 for Zhang, the comeback plus 120 for Namajunas. But, Rose opened about a plus 175 underdog. And the early money, which is usually sharper money, came in on Rose. And the line went down to around plus 145. I took Rose early on the move down. But now she's starting to climb her way back up to that opening number. Right now, she's back up to plus 175. And I didn't think it would get back to the original number. if I'm being honest. So I feel good about taking her as the dog here because you're talking about at plus 175, you're talking about a break-even point of about 36.5%. Yeah, about 36.5%. Okay. So do I think that Rose Namajunas wins this fight 4 out of 10 times? I do. I think she might even win this fight 5 out of 10 times. So I'm okay. I'm okay with taking the plus money here on Thug Rose at plus 175. If I was going to be worried about one thing, I'll tell you what it is. Rose Namajunas historically basically wins the first round of every fight that she's in. And it's because her footwork and movement is so sick that it takes people a full round to even remotely figure out what she does on her feet. So I feel pretty good about saying she takes round 1. Now, and I also think that she has the power to knock Zhang out. Just like I think that Zhang has the power to knock Rose out, for sure, because Zhang's got super heavy hands. But if you break down the technique in that 5-round fight of the year, her technique needs work. I don't care if she's 21-1. Take a look at her side by side against Namajunas, and there are holes in her technique. So, but what worries me is that Zhang gets better as the fight goes on. And in the 5th round of her fight against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, she threw 103 significant strikes. That is serious output in the 5th round of a fight. So I do think that Rose has to take round 1 and probably round 2 and 3. And I think that she leaves herself open in the latter rounds for Zhang to take round 4 and 5 and possibly even get a stoppage, because I don't think that Rose Namajunas could take the damage that Joanna Jędrzejczyk took in that 5-round fight. Joanna came out the other side of that fight looking like an alien, like a legitimate alien off a spaceship by the time that she got done with that fight. But I don't think that Rose Namajunas is anywhere near as hittable as Joanna because of the footwork that she has. So, long story short, I'm concerned about rounds 4 and 5, but I think that Rose could submit her. I think Rose has the power to put her down. I think Zhang also has the power to put her down. But I'm willing to take the shot on Rose at plus 175 to get that strawweight belt back. All right. What do we got? 3rd title fight. Flyweight championship. Jessica Andrade against the clear-cut 2nd best women's MMA fighter of all time. And it's not even close. You can make the argument that Valentina Shevchenko beat Amanda Nunes in that 2nd fight. And they should really be 1-1. So, I mean, she's at the very least the 2nd greatest of all time, and she could be the greatest of all time, like legitimately. So now this is only the 2nd time that we have seen Valentina Shevchenko at anywhere close to the price I see right now since she fought the 2nd Amanda Nunes fight back at UFC 215. The only other time was her fight against Joanna Jędrzejczyk when she was a minus 300 favorite. So let's start there. We're getting a monumental discount on a champion that's basically been as dominant as you can be over the last 4 years. Now, we know what Valentina Shevchenko is. She's a straight assassin, bro. She's got no holes in her game. She is flawless everywhere, on the feet, on the ground, her fight IQ, her gas tank, flawless everywhere. So the question becomes, why is the price on her so low compared to what it's been in her last 5 or 6 fights. And, you know, let me clarify. When I say low, we're still talking about a $4 favorite, right? So, I mean, you know, it's all relative. Low to her is still a minus 400 favorite. But that's low considering her normal price point. But even still, why this low? 2 reasons, in my opinion. The first being her last fight against Jennifer Maia. I went back and I watched that 5-round fight a few times. It was the first time that we saw Shevchenko lose a round, to be fair, since her fight against Amanda Nunes at UFC 215. And I think that people saw that she looked human against a really stocky, thick Brazilian that can take her to the ground. And I think people, and I think the marketplace in general, overreacted. Even the odds makers, in my opinion, overreacted a little bit, and they open up this line at minus 400. It went down as low as minus 380. And now it's starting to slowly climb up a little bit. Now, the second reason is that most fighters that fight Valentina Shevchenko are beat before they ever step into the cage, okay? Jessica Andrade will not be beat before she steps into the cage. She's not afraid to get hit. She's fully willing to eat a punch to throw back to. And her counter game is strong. So if we're being honest, Jessica Andrade is probably as live as anybody's been against Valentina Shevchenko since her last fight with Amanda Nunes. Now, you know, Andrade is a big name. Most people know what she's good at. She's got really heavy hands. She's stocky and thick like Maia. And if Jessica Andrade can work her way inside, she's got the power to pick Valentina Shevchenko up and take her down, drop her right on her head like she did to Rose Namajunas. So do I think that Andrade is more live than most? Yes. With that said, do I think that she's going to beat Shevchenko in the end? No, I don't. My worry in the fight is that, like I just said, Andrade on the counter worries me a little bit about Valentina getting clipped. But why I feel good about Valentina Shevchenko here is how weak Jessica Andrade's striking is from a technical standpoint. When Andrade comes in and charges with those 3 and 4 punch combinations, there are so many holes in her technique that Shevchenko could take advantage of. And in the end, that's what I think is going to happen. Shevchenko hits as hard, if not harder, than Jessica Andrade. And it feels like a Shevchenko knockout to me in the later rounds on one of the exchanges when Andrade comes in charging with a 3-piece or a 4-piece. And I think that Shevchenko is going to catch her on the counter and probably send her down. Now, will it be a submission? Will it be a club and sub? Will it be a knockout? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think that Shevchenko takes advantage of that technique and ends the fight inside the distance some way. So if you're asking me for a lean in the fight, I'm going to say FanDuel right now has Shevchenko inside the distance in that plus 110 range. I've seen plus 120 earlier today at a different book. So for the purposes of the video, I'll go with Shevchenko inside the distance at plus 120. And that is the 3 championship fights. We have 2 more fights on the card, solid fights. Next fight, Chris Weidman, Uriah Hall. It's a rematch from a previous fight that happened about 11 years ago. They originally fought really early in their careers for Ring of Combat. At the time, I think Chris Weidman had only had 2 professional fights at that point in his career. And he fights Uriah Hall, and he beats him. Now, the book has been written on Chris Weidman. We know what he is. Everybody knows. They call him, his nickname is the All-American. Why? He came up as a 2-time All-American wrestler at a Hofstra. And after college, he decides to take those skills, transfer into MMA. And he became a solid striker. Ray Longo's a great coach. So, he became a really good wrestle boxer. And if we're being fair to Chris Weidman, that style took him to the pinnacle of the sport. I mean, he beat Anderson Silva at UFC 162, I think, when there wasn't a person on the planet that saw him winning that fight. Because at that time, Anderson Silva truly looked like an unbeatable fighter. But, Weidman beats him. After Weidman wins the belt, he defends it a few times. And then he meets Luke Rockhold at UFC 194. And the rest is history. Luke Rockhold shatters Weidman's glass jaw, and it stays broken for life. Till tomorrow night. So since that fight, Weidman has lost 5 of his last 7 fights, all by knockout. And that's why that jaw is finished. Now, another interesting aspect, if you follow the contour of Chris Weidman's career, is the fact that he dominated the sport up until USADA joined the UFC. If you don't know what USADA is, I think it stands for the United States Anti-Doping Agency, okay? So up until that point, he dominated the sport. Since then, Weidman has been awful. So you would think that he was probably on some type of steroid. He's never tested positive. But if you look at his career splits from before USADA and after USADA, I mean, it's alarming. So now Saturday night, Weidman fights another kid from New York in Uriah Hall. And we also know the story on Hall. He comes in through the Ultimate Fighter, and he's had a very up and down UFC career. He's a striker first and foremost. He's got some ground skills, but if we're being honest, I think he's only a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he only has like 1 career submission win. So he's basically a striker and nothing more than that. So I watched the tape on Hall's last 4 fights to really try and get a feel about where he's at right now. And the results left me, with a mixed feeling. He drops the fight to Paulo Costa in the second round, 4 fights back by knockout, which is expected because Paulo Costa is a freak of nature, right? But it's worth noting that he took a ton of damage in that first round, and it would have knocked most people out 4 or 5 times. And he took all those punches, and he was fine walking back to the cage. Now, he comes out for round 2, and he gets dropped. So I don't fault him on that loss because Paulo Costa's skill level is a couple levels above Uriah Hall. After that, he knocks out a young Bevan Lewis, who, in my opinion, has a very underrated striking game. But again, to be fair, Uriah Hall was down 2-0 in that fight. He was going to lose a unanimous decision. But in the 3rd round of that fight, he knocks Lewis out. And he gets lucky, in my opinion, because he was getting pretty dominated on the feet. After that, he beat Shoeface by split decision. The fight was pretty close, went back and forth. I judged it probably 2-1 for Uriah Hall. So no complaints there from me. And then his last fight, he beats a 100-year-old Anderson Silva, and I can't give him credit for that, nor should you. So for me, the fight really comes down to three factors. Number one, can Chris Weidman repeatedly take Uriah Hall to the ground all 3 rounds, right? Number 2, speed. And number 3, stamina. Those are the 3 factors in the fight. Now, if you watch Chris Weidman's last fight against Omari Akhmedov, I was shocked by how slow Chris Weidman was everywhere. I'm talking his hand speed was gone. His takedowns looked like they were telegraphed from, a half mile away. So, Omari Akhmedov was pretty much just as slow as Chris Weidman. So he really wasn't in a position to take advantage of it. But the other factor that kind of shocked me was Chris Weidman's gas tank was so bad that he couldn't even breathe when the bell rang for the 3rd round. So, he basically laid on Omari Akhmedov for the entire 3rd round and ended up getting the win 2-1. So, those are all concerns. Uriah Hall has a gas tank for days. And he still has his speed. His hand speed's great. His movement in the cage is still fast. And he's got stopping power. So while I think that Weidman probably finds success on taking Uriah Hall down to the ground in round 1, I think that the speed and the gas tank of Uriah Hall should come into play in rounds 2 and 3. And I think that somewhere along the line, he finds a way to knock Chris Weidman out. We already know that a stiff wind on a summer night drops Chris Weidman, right? So I think that Hall should be able to, as long as he could stay on his feet in rounds 2 and 3, I think he finds a way to knock Chris Weidman out. So for the purposes of the video, I'll say Uriah Hall by knockout in the ballpark of plus 170-ish is what's out there now. And I don't mind it. I don't mind a half unit shot on that because, he's got a better chance to knock Chris Weidman out than any of his last 5 opponents. So I'm okay with it. All right, one more fight on the card. Jimmy Crute, Anthony Smith. Jimmy Crute, man, I like the kid. He's one of the more exciting prospects at 205 pounds. He's one of those new breed of young MMA fighters that because the sport is where it's at now, he has basically been training to be an MMA fighter since the age of 4 years old. Literally, he comes from a line of boxers, starts training karate at the age of 4, judo by the age of 10, Brazilian jiu-jitsu by the age of 11. So, he's literally been training his entire life for this. And he's incredibly well-rounded. He's a great striker. He's got heavy hands. He's really light on his feet. He's got really good footwork. He cuts angles well. And when you can submit Paul Craig inside the cage, your Brazilian jiu-jitsu game is 100% legit and serious. So he's gonna show up on Saturday and he's gonna come to fight and try to put on a show. So the question that you have to ask yourself is Anthony Smith done? Now, Anthony Smith is only 32 years old, but he's got 50 pro MMA fights. So, in fight years, Anthony Smith is 108 years old, right? Now, it's tough to decide if all the damage that Anthony Smith has been taking has made him a shell of the fighter that he used to be, or is it the case that he's lost 2 of his last 3 fights because he's fought a couple really tough opponents in Glover Teixeira and Alexander Rakic. Now, we know that Glover Teixeira will probably be the next title challenger for Jan Blachowicz, because Glover's been on a great run. And we also know, to be fair, Rakic is one of the true contenders at light heavyweight right now. So where I fall on this is somewhere in between. I don't think that Anthony Smith is quite done yet, but I do think that he's going to lose against a really tough kid in Jimmy Crute. Now, a lot of people I've heard this week think that Crute's going to get this fight done inside the distance. And I get it. Jimmy Crute's a really dangerous kid. He could do it any way he wants to. He could probably submit Smith. He could probably knock Smith out. But, you know, the route that I think that I'm going to go in this fight is I think that Jimmy Crute probably wins a really dominant decision. Am I going to bet the fight? Probably not. If I do, it'll probably be taking a really small shot on a price. You can get Jimmy Crute by decision right now at around plus 310. And I think that's worth throwing a little Chipotle money on. Nothing greedy, just a taste. So, yeah, for the video, I'll say a small shot on Jimmy Crute by decision at plus 310. And that's it, friends. That's the Rumpure main event breakdown for UFC 261. So we've got a ton of content this weekend. We got the in-game betting shows all weekend long, Keg Live, Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to do a NASCAR video with Coop tomorrow. There'll be MLB and NBA videos all weekend, and the team absolutely keeps crushing. I'll tell you, the website's crushing. We're up 22 units in the month of April. Every handicapper right now, I think, is currently in the black for the month of April. So we're continue to do our thing. We continue to grind out the profit. If you want to join the site, use promo code BETS25 off. You get 25% off your first month on the bet side. And that's only if you want the bet side. Or you could use promo code GETBETS. You could join the DFS side, and you'll get the Run Pure Bet side free for 1 month. So I'll be back tomorrow afternoon to do a NASCAR video with Coop. We went 2-0 again last week in that video. We're going to try to do it again. And then tomorrow night, I'll be live for subscribers all night long, live bet and everything. And then Sunday, we'll be back on the Run Pure Bets YouTube channel for Talladega. So I hope your action runs pure this weekend. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.